Secretary General Phil Baguma noted that the COVID-19 disruptions have impacted the implementation, but schools are working to help students continue to catch up. We have more of this.
Schools having opened this week on Monday, the Uganda National Teachers Union UNATU has indicated that given it's the first quarter of the candidates under the new curriculum, it is essential for the government to intensify its efforts in reforming the education sector, as numerous gaps require attention.
Teachers who were trained obviously took close to 2 years without implementing what they were trained in. You saw the delay in scholastic materials from the ministry, and therefore schools are not on the same page in terms of readiness for these exams. But come mid-October, all schools will do exams and will be assessed. But we need to do better as a country, because we cannot continue doing everything as an emergency.
UNATU Secretary General Phil Baguma says the implementation of the new curriculum was affected by COVID-19 pandemic. However, schools are playing their part to ensure that students catch up. He expressed concerns regarding certain teachers who, despite the opening of schools of the third term, continue to demand their salaries from the government, which adversely affects the teaching and learning process.
Some teachers have not received salary for June, July and August, but they also have children to take to school, of course, and other civil servants who are also affected by non-payment of salary. We have UPE and USE schools which have not received the capitation grant, and yet the president consistently says he doesn't want them to pay. So how do you, as a head teacher, run the school?
Honorable Chigozi Sajjadabene, the former member of parliament for Machinde Sabagabo and the director of Aiden College Schools, has encouraged students preparing to undertake their inaugural final examination under the new curriculum to adequately prepare to cultivate confidence for their enhanced performance.
Getting prepared for these exams is a very key factor, and by now you should be ready for the exam, and you should just be saying, when are they sending these exams? Because we are ready. Otherwise, if you are not ready now, it's going to be a bit of a problem. Remember, if you're in P7, you have done 7 years. If you're in Senior 4, you have done 4 years. If you're in Senior 6, you have done 2 years. You cannot now expect to cover up what you didn't cover or what you have not covered, because there's just only about 1 month.
He urged parents to turn their children to schools even in the light of issues concerning school fees. He says they ought to engage in discussions with the heads of schools.
Parents, if you don't come to explain, we don't know your problems and you cannot assist. And of course, by the time the exams are coming, you will have to pay. So it's much better that if you have hopes of getting the money, you come and explain, make a commitment, and then the student doesn't lose. But what happens is that most parents do not try that. Of course, most parents these days are not very responsible. They don't quite mind about education, not knowing that what they are doing is putting the nation into a very big problem.
Victor Sewanyana, the head teacher of Ramsdale Child Learning Center in Massaja, observed that the turn-up for the third term is still low, thus urging parents to send their children back to school.
The turn-up is not so good. Children are still home, and here I advise parents to bring their children back to school, because this is the third term. So here I advise parents who have not yet sent their children to school to do so. The term is too short and very hectic.
She adds that parents should think more about the safety of their kids.
As these kids are coming to school, more so the day scholars, the parents should be very keen the way their children come to school. Some of them, they close busy roads, on the roads. There are so many road users, the vehicles, the motorcycles, so they should know how their children come to school.
The third term of the 2024 academic year is expected to end on the 6th of December 2024, according to the government calendar. John William Ogenda, Freddy Chris Chisawo for Btm News Today.
Now let's move on. This evening, government has been to task over the delay in the release of the capitation grants to schools, with legislators now noting that these often reach when the learning institutions have already closed. According to Joseph Sewungu, the NUP Kalungu West County MP, the Ministry of Finance now has not availed the capitation grants in time, despite Parliament's guidance that schools should get the funds 15 days before the commencement of the new school terms. We have the report.
While presenting a matter of national importance during the plenary sitting chaired by Deputy Speaker Thomas Tayewa, Kalungu West MP raised an issue of national importance regarding schools. The government pays shillings 3,000 per child per term. However, according to Joseph Sewungu, the Kalungu West MP, the government does not send this money in time, hence affecting the planning of the school, contributing to poor performance.
To start buying scholastic materials for the new curriculum, and we have candidate classes. Where are they getting their money from? They are from their poor, bigger salary, and Mr. Speaker, through the Minister of Finance is here. What is failing you to send money before the term begins so that these teachers can do something?
Sewungu says the failure by some schools to adequately prepare for the teaching term has seen students not reporting for the school term, which he noted affects those in candidate classes.
Where students have refused to report, majority. But we are, as members of parliament, we have been pushing. We have talked to parents, take your children to school, but there's nothing to do at school.
Thank you.
They are taking them to slash. That's my matter, Mr. Speaker.
The State Minister for Finance, General Duties, Honorable Henry Musasizi, committed to return to Parliament with details of figures of the capitation grant that was budgeted for and has been released so far. He also promised to present what the ministry will release in the next quarter of the financial year.
From the way he is portraying it, is like as if government is not doing anything, which is not the case. Mr. Speaker, I need to come back here tomorrow with facts and figures about what we have budgeted, what we have released, and what we plan to release in October.
Workers' representative Honorable Margaret Rabsheja called for a committee to investigate the non-payment of part-time teaching staff at Chambogo University. Rabsheja said the university has a deficit of shillings 5.6 billion in salary arrears. She alluded to a 2023 scenario when part-time lecturers from the same university threatened to withdraw their services by not setting examinations, which she said indicated the workforce gap and the need for the remuneration. Tayewa tasked the State Minister for Sports, Honorable Peter Ogwang, to present a statement in the next sitting of the House. Serena Naguja, Btm News Today.
The National Social Security Fund has announced the contributors are set to earn 10% of their savings this year. NSSF Managing Director Patrick Oyota revealed this while presenting his performance report for the year ending 30th June 2024. Now, from this report, it was also revealed that the need for savers to withdraw their benefits dropped by 3,865, which reduced the amount of money paid out within the same period. Let's have more.
According to Patrick Ayota, the managing director at NSSF, the fund had improved in performance better in the 12 months to June than in the previous period.
So if you look at our performance, one of the things that I think we really want to, many of you have been following us, I know Paul has been doing this. In 2015, we set up what we call a 20-year strategic plan. At that time, we were 5.5 trillion shillings in assets. Our goal and our plan was to hit 20 trillion by June 2025. We hit that number in January 2024, 18 months ahead of schedule. So by the end of June 2024, the fund has grown to 22.13 trillion shillings. So actually we grew by about 2 trillion shillings between January and June, which is incredible. And I will share with you later what that means for us as a fund.
While inflation has remained below the central bank target rate of 5%, NSSF savers will be hoping that the fund returns a higher refund than the unit trust and treasury bill investment, which hover below just 12%. Mr. Ayota announced that the fund's size had grown by 3 trillion to 22.13%. Revenue also increased by 15% over the 12 months.
If you look at our contributions, and this is a good number to actually tell, because if you follow the money, it tells a story. The last 5 years, 1.27 in 2019, 2021 was 1.37, 2022 1.49, 2023 1.72, 2024 1.93 trillion. It has been increasing, and that's what tells us that more and more people are interested in the fund with their savings, and that's why that's the story of that contribution. So last year, our contribution grew by 12.2%, which bodes well for that.
The growth in revenue was at the back of the economic environment, a recovery in the equities market, and an increase in member contributions, as Mr. Gerard Kasato, the Deputy Managing Director, states.
Now, part of that was driven by the recovery in the equity markets. When you look at the return that we made on the equity side, we made over 20% year on year. That is when you compare the movements of the prices and the dividends we got. To give context in terms of the dividends, year on year, our dividends grew by 21% from 145 billion last year to 175 billion. That one was on account of the two big investments we made in the year. We made a big investment in MTN and another one in Airtel.
The cost-to-income ratio saw a slight rise from 8.66% in the financial year 2022-2023 by 8.77% in the financial year 2023-2024. Although cost management resulted in a reduction of the cost of administration from 1.02% to 1.00% of the total assets. The compliance rate remained steady at 57% during the financial year 2023-2024. Serena Nagoja, Herbert Mugabe, Btm News Today.
Well, we're moving on. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Lieutenant Joseph Masanyufu, has emphasized the government's commitment to addressing terrorism and also violent extremism. During the discussion of the findings of the Rapid Threat Assessment reports on the violent extremism in Uganda and in Kampala, the report by Professor Abdu Katende, the consultant reading the assessment, highlighted the key trends in violent extremism, the vulnerabilities faced by the at-risk communities, and recommendations of tailored responses to mitigate these threats. We have the story.
Hundreds of pagers blew up at the same time across Lebanon yesterday in an apparent operation against Hezbollah. Israel hid small amounts of explosives in the pagers, which were made in Taiwan before they were imported into Lebanon, US and other officials have confirmed. The pagers received a message that appeared as though it was coming from Hezbollah's leadership. Instead, the message activated the explosives. At least 11 people, including a young girl, were killed and more than 2,700 were injured, the country's health minister has said. Iran's ambassador to Lebanon was also wounded, and Hezbollah said that at least 8 of its fighters had been killed. The Israel military has not commented or claimed responsibility. Lebanon's foreign minister said the country was bracing for a major retaliation by Hezbollah. Moving on, Mali's capital sustained a terrorist attack carried by Al-Qaeda affiliate group GNIM yesterday morning. citing a security official. The Faladi Gademe School and a military base near the Modibo Keita South Airport were targeted. Later in the day, the situation was under control and the army visited the camp where they urged fight division and amalgams. The army has called on the residents to provide information to the authorities. The investigations are ongoing. It comes few days before the country's Independence Day, scheduled on September 22nd. In 2022,
well, now the Uganda People's Congress Party, UPC, has now denounced Museveni